Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey there, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is Amelia Randolph Campbell. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey, I'm so excited to have you on the show. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Gosh, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think that your show is amazing, and the work that you do helping people in the world is just awesome. So thank you.
They can't see me over here like blushing up a storm.
But the work I do, and this probably can be said of anyone really, is a culmination of everything that came before. I am 40 and I live in Brooklyn with my family, my 2 children and my husband. And I'm at this great, perfect storm moment of career where I spent the first part of my life as an actor for decades and decades. I announced I was going to be an actor when I was 7.
That's great. So few of us know from when we're children what we're going to be. So I love that.
Yes, that's been comforting, actually. And then that led into some entrepreneurship, because I do not believe in the starving artist principle. And I'm a big abundance believer and pursuer and attractor. And so I was starting to think about business. And I went into direct sales, the dreaded direct sales industry, for years and years in various companies. One led to another. And I learned so much and grew in that arena. And I find it very fascinating because I never thought that I would do sales, especially in the direct sales industry. When I was little, I laughed because I refused to become a Girl Scout because I was so afraid of selling something to friends. Like the idea of asking my friends to buy cookies that everybody wanted.
Yeah. Like the easiest sale ever.
Yeah.
Girl Scout cookies. Who wants?
I remember this sick feeling that I had at the time. So I think it's fascinating that I went into that area, but I did because I really could see the leverage behind it. I wanted something that I could leverage. And I love that it was that industry, because I was able to really infuse it with me. And I was able to live in that industry in the way that is different from the way so many people experience the other side of it. And that was a really nice pride point and a really big growth point. Mm-hmm. And I was able to foster that in other people and, be the good guy.
I think that's an awesome strategy, by the way. Like I've done that before. When I was a kid, let's go back there. I was pushed off a pool floaty. And one of my earliest memories is I remember looking up at the surface of the water from the bottom of the pool as my cousins were like, is she going to swim back up here? So for a long time, I was terrified of water, of drowning. And I did something similar to overcome that fear. Like you're talking about, I'm terrified to sell these cookies, even though this is the easiest sale ever. I went and got swim lessons and then became a lifeguard, then became a lifeguard instructor. And hey, miraculously, knowledge equals power. I don't have that fear anymore. I'm not scared of drowning.
Yes. And the satisfaction of proving that it can be different, and you can give someone a really good experience and become something inside something that you didn't used to feel as a fit.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that story about this one.
I thought it was fascinating how you knew, like I said, from a kid, exactly what you wanted to be. I think as a kid, I convinced myself I wanted to be a lawyer because I like to argue with people. But then when I grew up and I realized pantyhose were involved, and I'm probably going to backtalk a judge, which is going to get me thrown in jail for a night. This is probably not my field or my specialty. But then I found something else. I mean, I would say that copywriting, which is my background, has kind of an arguing your case, proving your point kind of component to the work, which I felt really drawn to. And that with my screenwriting background, it was just like, oh, wow, hey, there are other jobs out here where I can use these skill sets. It's really interesting. And everybody listening, I'm circling exclamation mark, bold, underline, highlight this, make it a sign, put it in your house. No starving artists.
Yes. Yes.
Not allowed, doesn't have to be. People that try to pay you an exposure, tell them to get bent. Tell them to pay your landlord an exposure. That's what you need to tell them. But yes. I'm going to get off my soapbox and we'll go back to this conversation. So I love when we were talking just before we started recording about learning to think like an actor and how that's really helped you as you've grown your business. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So my favorite part of my business years in this industry was when I was so good at it that I grew a team and I became a leader, and I was now in a position of coaching. And in my leadership and business coaching, my favorite thing to work on was mindset. I worked primarily with women. My favorite thing was to bridge the gap between what they wanted and their fears and their beliefs. Ultimately, it was beliefs that they didn't believe their desire fully.
Yeah.
This is what needs to be built and broken up and achieved. Fixed.
Oh, yeah.
So it was my favorite thing to work on. And we had a ton of fun for years. And what started to happen is that I started giving speeches at conferences. Ooh. And I would speak on this and motivation and mindset and busting through limiting beliefs, et cetera. And people started saying, you should do that more. And then around that time in life, when you're ready, the teacher appears. So this incredible woman who I know has been on this podcast, Trisha Brooke, started showing up as a speaking coach and someone who puts people on stages. And she showed up through very key people in my life who were of some of them had been my previous mentors. And I said, okay, I've got to follow this person. And I ended up, taking a course with her. And now I'm on my 4th round with her. She's now my complete VIP mentor coach. Oh, it was in working with her where this idea crystallized for me, which is when I realized that both of these careers have a beautiful overlap place. And I was like, I know why I was born. My mission is to take my knowledge of how an actor thinks and achieves the creation of character, the full living of experiences, the ability to change how they think and feel in an honest way. It's not fake. To the pursuit of busting through limiting beliefs and achieving goals that you may be coming up against as not being able to transcend at this time. I said, this is the complete way through to this. And it's a way, I just am so in love with the pursuit of developmental growth. And there's so many different ways to come at it, and everyone's coming at it from different angles. So this is another angle that I don't think a lot of people might be thinking about. You don't really know about it unless you're an actor. And if you're not an actor, it's like, you don't really think you have access to it or that it applies. And I'm really not teaching acting. That's I really have to say that because, it's not always obvious right away, but there's a couple prime ways that this mindset and skill set in pieces completely skips over and leapfrogs some really key limiting habits that we all have got and that are default in our habitual ways of thinking, just in daily life, much less, building a killer business career. Mm-hmm. So I can say with you all a couple of the examples if you wish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to highlight another thing that I thought you kind of glossed over it, but I really wanted to circle back and pay attention to it because you're like, people tell you that you should be speaking. First of all, if somebody comes up and makes an unsolicited recommendation like that and they have nothing to gain, that's something to pay attention to and take note and ask yourself, oh, is that something I'm interested in? Because there's some interest there from other people outside me. That's exactly how this podcast started. People heard me speaking on stage, and I had the first time somebody came up to me and said, like, you should start a podcast. I really love your voice. I was like, what are you smoking? I have a very weird voice. And then the second time it happened, I was like, okay, this is weird. And the third time it happened, I was like, all right, 3 different people, 3 different events. There's something here. We got to pursue this. And then that ties directly into the second thing that you said that I really wanted to highlight, which was investing in yourself. You talked about, I'm ready to speak, and then the teacher appears, but that was a conscious choice to join Trisha's program and develop your speaking skills, just like I joined a podcasting program and developed my podcasting skills. I think that's something that's not talked about enough, especially in early stage entrepreneurship. The fact that investing in yourself is something that pays off in the long run. So like detach yourself from, if I put money in here, am I going to pull money out? This isn't a freaking bank account. This is investing in your long-term growth. We're just going to get on the soapbox today.
Exactly. It's crucial. And you know why it's the most crucial is because it's a statement. It's a statement of your frequency. I am a law of attraction obsessed person.
Nice.
And I work with energy and frequencies and you absolutely determine where your frequency is by your beliefs and your thoughts and your feelings. And this is like a core piece of my work. And literally, okay, quick side story.
I love side stories. Let's do it.
I know you do. In the first couple years of my sales business, I was like proceeding. And then I hit a plateau, and I continued to do the things that I did to get me to that place. And it wasn't going any higher. And I thought, I've got to have some sort of block that I can't access consciously. You know, I'm telling myself to do it. I'm doing the things. It's not going. There's something that I need to address. And once again, I can't actually remember how it went down, but this man, John Assaraf, came into my social media or something. He appeared in my life, and he had something that was being advertised called the Neuro Gym.
This is such a weird synchronicity because my friend actually wrote a lot of those promos, but please continue.
Awesome. It was the Brainathon, and then the Neuro Gym followed thereafter. And me just being hungry for all kinds of I'm always like, good bread for the head. I want the good stuff before anything else like the news. And so I watched the Brainathon and I went on to the Neuro Gym, and I still have the audios, but those subliminal type of audios and the way you study your money story, I discovered a very limiting money story that I did have, which I didn't realize. Because I didn't feel like I had one, but I did have one. And then followed that came all kinds of realizations of how I was feeling when I was saying things like, I want more money, or I want to transcend to the next business level. You can say that, but if you got to pay attention to the frequency behind it. Yeah. It was actually one of lack. I was saying, I want more money. I want this next business level. But then when I realized that I was tuned into a feeling and a state of paying too much attention to the fact that it wasn't happening. And it's this super subtle work that's really exciting. You're either paying attention to the lack of the thing, or you're noticing the thing while putting all of your frequency attention on the existence of it. And you do that by feeling how it feels when you get it, and forgetting about the fact that it's not there. It's it's totally a mind trick, and you have to basically trick yourself. Oh yeah. You have to be non-realistic, your brain doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. So if you make up a story where you are the winner, you are the epitome of success, you're standing on the stage, taking the Oscar, taking it like a giant check for however much money, your brain goes, oh, I think that could happen. Here's how. But what you focus on, I love what you said about that, because what you focus on is what you tend to get. So if you focus on it's not happening. Oh, your brain's going, you're right. It's not happening. This is going to continue to not happen. Right. Right. Oh, and I wrote down and I circled 5 times, good bread for the head. I love that. I agree with that. I actually accidentally got caught in 2 separate storms because I've made it such a point to ignore the news that I ignored the weather report too. That's so me. That's also me.
But it's so good for my mental state, because before, I'm convinced every day just watching, listening to the news, the world is going to end at any moment. Like, oh, well, great. If it ends, at least I didn't worry about it in my last days and I actually had some fun.
Yep.
All right. So we took our little side detour, but you were about to share some examples of what you were talking about. So let's jump in.
Yes. So examples. Our minds default to the negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, hence the propensity even to need to watch a lot of news, react to the bad, like worry. A state of worry is the absolute most limiting thing we can be in.
Mm-hmm.
And we know why we do it. We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to know the right actions to take to avoid pain. All those things make a ton of sense, but it doesn't actually serve you. So an example, one of my favorite examples about this thinking like an actor thing is how we relate differently to time and circumstance. So in our real life, there's whatever amount of time and we're surrounded by all these circumstances. Say something bad happens, which it always will. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's there to serve you. Our default reaction tends to be, we immediately go about trying to change that thing that happened before we think we can feel differently about it. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, this happened. That's bad. Something else needs to happen where this thing needs to change and then I'll feel better. Mm-hmm. This, in general, I believe is what we do. This is what I've observed in myself and other people.
Oh, yeah.
And we also tend to believe that we don't have enough time most of the time. Like, we don't have time, strapped on time. Time's on our friend, circumstances aren't our friend. We make these like default judgments about those two things. The killer opportunity of thinking like an actor is that time and circumstance are nothing but tools for your favor. So an actor is given a story and they have a very certain amount of time. It's pretty short usually, sometimes just a matter of weeks, to take that story and have it performance ready. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of time to worry about stuff. And in terms of the circumstances, it's really, really cool because this story is not theirs to try to change, right? It's been given. Usually there's such a thing as collaborative scripts, but often it's like, you do not mess with the playwright's script or the screenwriter's script, right? That's what it is. That's your story. So they know there's no changing the story. So literally there's no focus on that at all. They just get to focus on how they get to create within that story. And it's not like, oh, this thing has to change so I can feel better. The question and work goes towards, how can I choose to feel within this story? How can I choose to become? What are the options? And they're seeing options. We don't tend to see a lot of options. All we see is the circumstance. Mm-hmm. So that's one example of a cool way to hack your perception of something that has happened.
I love that. We talked about that when I was kind of in the agency side of writing and marketing. Creativity loves constraints. Mm-hmm. So like, if you give me a small box, like this isn't even about thinking outside the box. This is about thinking inside the box and how much fun you can have with that box. Right. You don't have to actually bust out of the box. Like it can be very freeing to be in the box and explore just what you've been given there. And I love that you point out, like they've been given a character. It's not yours to change. You've been given a story. It's not yours to change or to interpret. So like, how do you operate within that given the time that you've got? Oh,
right. And also it's like the actor knows they have so many options of who to become and how to feel. There's not just one. And we're in our habits of how we feel, how we think. Mm-hmm. If you give yourself the permission to really explore other ways, other options, other thoughts, you can choose any thought you want. Yeah. You can choose any emotion you want. And there are very real processes that I take people through. I love to do it in small groups where you really connect to yourself. And it's not about being dramatic. It's really, the work is about stripping away the crap, stripping away the noise. You connect to yourself, you find out what you're really feeling. You bring a consciousness to yourself that often we don't have at all.
Oh, yeah.
And you drill everything down to like emotion by emotion, realizing it, being conscious of it, verbalizing it, stripping away all your showy, habits and letting these emotions up. And each one leads to another. We tend to just hold them down.
Oh, yeah.
But when you start to you let them all up, you get to the center of it. And what you find is your real presence. So I talk about this. This is so important in life, but absolutely in any work and business.
Oh, yeah.
It matters what you're doing, but if you are not like your whole present self, you're not going to have the magnetism. You're not going to have the influence. You can have the best business going ever, the best idea, the best tactics. But everybody knows, just like when you're seeing an actor's performance, you know the difference between when they're in it. And you know it because of what you're feeling, how you're moved. If you're missing the opportunity to be in such a magnetic presence that absolutely is yours and you can absolutely be in it almost at all times, then you're missing out. And most of all, you're missing out on who you can serve and how you can serve,
Yeah. No, so I love all that. I think it's so critical to talk about this because one thing that I hear from people all the time is that you look so confident. You sound so confident. And I'm like, oh God, please, if you heard what was happening in between the ears, you would not think that thing about me. But it's really interesting because I was on a mastermind the other week and something similar happened to me where I kind of lapsed into business speak because of all those voices in my head that judged, like, if I sound a certain way, people are going to judge me. So I need to sound this way so that I kind of blend in. And thankfully, one of my friends goes, blah, 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 boring. Where's Angie? And I was like, well, that stings a little bit, but you are absolutely right. Okay, how can we do this? And still, for like weeks after she pointed that out, I struggled. One of my biggest struggles is writing about myself and the value that I provide to people. And I know it's there, which is why I surround myself with people that can like reflect that reality back at me. I have a hard time seeing it. But one day I was talking with my own life coach and I was like, why am I struggling to write this? Like, it's all there. I know I do good work. How am I not writing about this in a way that sounds like me? And he's like, is there a way that you can get out of your head? Because how this all ties together. So we wound up talking about it a little bit. Like, can you get out of your head and pretend to be someone else for a while? And I was like, what, like a pirate? And he was like, if you need to write about Angie like a pirate, freaking do that. And amazingly enough, it's so dumb, but I love it. I wrote about my business offering like a pirate. I'm not going to read an example of this. You don't want to hear me talk like a pirate. But in doing that, it kind of freed that block exactly like you were talking about, where I'm just sitting in my head, like, how do I talk to other business owners? What do I say that's good about myself that doesn't sound braggy, that doesn't sound over the top? Just like worry. And it was like, nope, talk about your business like a pirate. Here's your box. Be a pirate. Go.
Absolutely.
I bet you didn't expect to talk about piracy today.
I love it.
Well, this is awesome. Let's continue. You got more examples?
Yes. So another way I really love to help people change their state. And again, you can't just tell yourself, like, you couldn't just tell yourself to write that, right? Even when you know you can, you've got to feel it. You've got to be in that place. And often, like, we're meant to be stuck places, right? We're meant to come up against stuff. This is the only way we evolve. So
yep.
It's always a celebration, and there's always the invitation to release judgment. I mean, one way an actor can only succeed, they have to release a lot of judgment. There's no such thing as getting rid of judgment, but you're like, there it is, drop it. There it is, drop it. Because there's no way they can enter into playing another character if they're judging that character. There's no way if they can tell the truth about themselves and find those truth points between themselves and the character if they're judging it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very freeing thing that we do as well. And that helps us enter into a state of play and imagination, like play, imagination, vulnerability, all things that we just try to squash in adulthood, right? These are our biggest assets. And that's what actors' jobs are, to imagine, to say yes, to play. Like you can't say no as an actor. Like yes, and I'm sure you've heard that. You got to say in things like improv. You cannot, you're not allowed to say no. You say yes, and yes, I will figure that out. Yes, there's a different answer I can find. Yes. And everything is an open door, open door, open door, expansive step forward, instead of we close so many doors in our minds and we don't even realize it so much. So another point that I want to talk about is questions.
Ooh.
Actors use questions a ton. They say yes to questions and they ask more questions. Really, we're just like children. It's like the amount of children ask is maddening, right?
Oh, yes.
We stop asking so many questions as grownups. Or if we do, if you really pay attention, grownups tend to ask questions in the form of statements, and they're in the form of like a shut door statement, right? Like, why is this not working? Saying first that it's not working. Why is it not working? The focus is on that it's not working. That's how that question is. You know, why am I not happy? And this is a subtle difference. And this part comes specifically, I believe, from Tony Robbins, where the mind is absolutely tuned to answer the kind of question you asked in the exact tone, or basically the exact same frequency. So this is brilliant because all you need to do is pay attention to the questions you're asking, decide to ask more questions, and pay attention to make them much better questions.
Yes.
And then your mind will do entirely the rest of the work. And it's so fun. It's so easy to give an example. So, you know, if you say, why am I not making more money? Your mind will immediately, I'm sure it's doing it now, answer why you're not.
Yep.
Money.
Justifications, basically, like all the excuses.
Right. So, but if you'd say, take the same subject and change the question, what's fun about the way I am making money right now? You're probably making some. Yeah. Maybe not what you want to, but you're probably making some. What's fun about the way I am making money? Your mind is not going to give you the other answer. It's going to come up with the reason why it is fun. And if you haven't felt like it's fun, you will begin to find what's fun. You'll begin to feel the fun if you insist on asking that question. Your mind will draw from your world and your subconscious and everything that exists, which is limitless, to be drawn from that kind of answer. So that all by itself, you can use those kinds of questions in a row, keep going in that direction of what feels good. Yes. Not what you think is real, not what you see in front of you that you don't like. You have to forget that part. It is completely in your power to choose what you're thinking and how you're feeling. And you put in that much effort. If you only do this question asking thing, you will find that you calibrate yourself to a completely different state. And when you do that, you will be receiving completely different things. And they might be coming in super small examples. But there's proof right there.
Yes. Oh, I love this.
That will give you any amount of proof that you want on the tone that you set. And I think the first job is to be conscious of what that is. So actors are you've got to be incredibly conscious of reality. And then you leave that behind. And you choose what the reality is. Inside this, it's really cool because it is a very set structure of a story that you've got. But your options are limitless. And that is absolutely true in life and business and everything. So this is why I'm obsessed with talking about things from the actor's point of view.
I love it. No, like if you hadn't said it, I was going to look, for you that are listening that are going, okay, yeah, but those of us that are in the real world, hey, newsflash, you can change the real world. I've told this story before, but when I was a cubicle copywriter and I was stuck, sometimes I worked 20-hour days. It was ridiculous. And people were screaming at me. And then I had this friend that was like, okay, I'm going to go to Sevilla, Spain next month. And if they don't want to work with me anymore, I totally get it. But like my going to Spain is way more important than continuing to work at this job. And I was like, you can do that. You can just walk into a boss's office and say, I'm going to be in Spain next month. Would you like to continue working together and figure out how that looks like? She was living in a completely different reality from me.
Yep.
And I didn't see it until she showed me what was possible. So like there are realities out there that if you open your mind, if you open the doors, exactly like you were talking about, Amelia, open all these doors around you and see what's possible. Invite these solutions in, ask the right questions. You might find yourself living a totally different life. Like if I had looked at her and been like, well, that's possible for you, but not for me, and shut that door closed, we wouldn't even be talking right now.
Do you know what the key is? That's a brilliant story. And I love everything about your story, by the way.
Thank you.
Like the incredibly hard knocks that came through, the way, just everything that's the story on your website. Oh, so much of it is so crazy painful, but it's perfect. It's perfect because you would not at all be making the impact you are now without it. So I think another very key, simple thing is the word but. You've got to stop. This is really fun too.
Yeah.
The point is to have lots of fun. First, just listen. Just listen to yourself. Oh, that's possible for you. But well, we tend to do this. Because we really everybody wants this freedom. They want the abundance. They want what they want. And if you can take the word but and anything else you're going to say after it out, just stop. Stop before then. Just be willing to stop and don't speak it.
Yep.
I covered my mouth for the podcast. Don't speak it and do your best to not even continue the thought in your mind, like distract yourself.
Let's all imagine collectively that the word but is it's that door slam, like a garage roller door loudly and dramatically slamming shut.
Right.
If you can hear that in your mind every time you say but, I think that's going to change the way you hear it.
Yeah. But and everything after it is only doing one thing, which is putting your focus on the lack in your reality at this moment. And if your focus is on it, it can't be off of it.
Yep.
Like the problem and the solution are not in the same place vibrationally. I know that might be a little woo-woo, but like it's true. And you can feel it emotionally. You've got like the compass, you've got the barometer right in your chest. And the focus is what matters. It's like you can't be looking at what you don't like about reality and receive the solution that you want. You've got to be in some make-believe. You know, obviously you're in your reality, but your focus while there, appreciate where you are and say the things and don't say the but and what comes after. You saw what was happening with your friend in Spain. Wow, that's possible.
Yep.
Wow, that's possible for her. Shut your mouth.
Yep.
No more. Wow, that's possible. Period. Stop. And it's great. And then you just leave yourself in that energetic point. And who cares? Just float there. Don't do anything about it, right? So that's the other key. It's really, really simple stuff. And it's the most liberating fun thing ever when you stop severing your ties to those habits.
Oh yeah.
Because the whole point of us wanting anything is how we're going to feel when we get it. And what you can achieve, you can absolutely achieve that feeling. You can get yourself that exact feeling before getting the thing. And then probably the thing's going to come faster. And in the meantime, you feel awesome. You're actually less attached to outcome. And that kind of freedom is amazing. And that kind of freedom makes you extremely attractive.
Yes.
To what you're pursuing, you know?
Oh, I love that you said that, especially the letting go of the outcomes, because I think a major root cause of all of our disappointments, our frustration, our anger, our rage, is we expected things to turn out one way and they didn't. And newsflash, that's life. I mean, there's 7 billion people. We all have different levels of expectations. A lot of us are going to be disappointed with how things turn out. It's just a fact.
That's a prison. If you're too attached to the outcome, it's a prison that will disappoint.
Mm-hmm. And it limits, it's like putting blinders on and just purposefully, deliberately limiting what you can see. Because if you decide that this is like, these are your only options, these are the limited options, then when a door opens off to your right, like making faces here and they can't even see it, but like I've got blinders on, right? Let's just do a visual exercise. And a door opens to my right and my peripheral vision, but I've got blinders on and I've got headphones in and I don't see that door opening at all because I have limited my own vision of this. Whereas if I'm looking around for solutions, they have a way of popping up right in front of your vision. It's fantastic.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're like this with headphones on with blinders, life will knock those blinders off.
Yeah.
And at the time, any twist and turn in your story, that's what was happening. Because, okay, she's not looking for the window. We're going to have to show her the window through this way, because this is how she's the only way she's going to go.
Oh, yeah.
And the best part about when things are going, quote unquote, wrong, all you've got to do is remember when things went wrong before. And then every time something goes wrong, it's like we're goldfish. It's like we're like, oh no, this is bad. And of course, I'm not demeaning the feelings around bad things happening. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The way to help find relief in those moments, I'm obsessed with helping people get into a state of relief because it opens them up and raises their frequency to better things, is remembering what happened after, and maybe right after, maybe years after, good things happened, something else happened. And also remember, if you really look at your life or anyone else's life, what we expect to happen is usually almost always not what happens.
Yeah.
Right? But you like decide I want this to happen. And if it doesn't, So, it's great news. Like it's all about being surprised and making discoveries and, what can I discover? This.
Yeah.
And
like
stuck in a bad moment of focus. If you're drowning in a sorrow or rage and you're just seeing the bad, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Again, that question technique, like what tiny speck of goodness can I see in this? Or, can I be shown?
Yeah.
So that you just open some space to get a different kind of answer.
I love that.
And when the shift comes, when you're in this kind of work, when the shift comes, it's 8,000 times even more satisfying because you know that you did it. And you're not a victim to circumstance and you're the one in charge. And I also work a lot with being in charge versus being in control.
Yeah.
Those are different energetically. If you're in control, first of all, that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah. That's an illusion.
You're going to be disappointed. And also when you're in a state of control, the only thing you're really going to be able to do is react, be reactionary. But if you're in a more flexible state of being in charge, then what you will do is respond. Both of those things have more space, have more room. They have a buffer zone for like a filter for yourself. And they also have grace for whatever you're interacting with for that person or situation.
Oh yeah. To everybody listening, you have 100% success rate of surviving all of the shit that has happened to you in your life. I like those odds. You can't get odds like that in Vegas. Bet on yourself. This is fantastic. And I've heard it put a couple different ways, but I love it. I can't remember where I heard this first one, but it's like the shit happens so the shift can happen.
Yes.
And then one of my early podcast guests put it in a way that I loved it because he was talking about being served with a lawsuit in the middle of COVID shutdowns and losing a bunch of business. And he goes, this is happening for me. This isn't happening to me.
I say that all the time as well. This
is, even with like what we're talking about now, I recently admitted to my mastermind friends, I think I'm ready to write the X into the acknowledgements of my next book. And they were like, oh, do tell. And I was like, he doesn't get a name mention. He gets initials, but it's thanks for giving me the kick in the pants I needed to do something great, because I took all of that raw energy and that great. Oh yes, we're all making heart. Like, yes.
Chills.
So such good energy. But I was like, I'm going to take all of that energy and all of that heartbreak and sink it into a better future for me, learning how to pick a partner better next time, how to embrace the love that's coming my way, how to love on the people around me and recognize the love that's in my life. I know we're like Care Bear heart at each other right now.
We should be on video, this one.
I know, we should share it. It's fantastic. Oh, this is such great energy. I love this.
Well, and another thing I'm obsessed about is making comparative points, like analogies, similes, and metaphors, because what you're talking about and what we're talking about, it's the laws of how everything operates. Like, take comfort in that, right? Like, like your horrible breakup, you're in spring now because of it. We don't want to always stay in summer. We really don't.
No.
And sometimes winter can suck. There's also lots of beauty in winter. But like spring and how spring feels and what it does, that only comes because winter made it possible.
Yes. I love that. There's something to admire about every season of life that you're in. There really is. Even when it's like, and we're recording this in February when I'm in Flagstaff, and like right before we started recording, I showed you the foot of snow that's on the ground and it's still dumping. And there have been a couple times where I had to like stop myself from making an exclamation because I've seen people spinning out on the street out there and I'm like, please don't hit my house. But oh man, like I love this because like I can go snow tubing in this. I can stay inside with a mug of hot chocolate. There are lots of ways to appreciate this dumping of snow that's happening on me right now. And also still looking forward to that first warm day with the flowers in the air. And I can take this giant bulky sweater off.
Because it's coming. So if we can have that same faith in like an emotional winter.
Oh, I love that.
It will absolutely be the same. We're not exempt. That's the good news. The good and bad news. We're not exempt from the laws of this ecosystem that we are part of. Our egoic minds tend to be like, I can isolate from self-isolate from those laws sometimes, but they're actually always in your favor. They just are. And then they are in your favor.
Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. We could talk about this all day. I'm so excited. So tell us a little bit more about where we can learn about you.
Oh gosh. My website, ameliarandolphcampbell.com, is really the hub. That's where you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter and get a free ebook called Pocket Perspective.
Ooh.
I love like instant relief in your pocket.
It's so snappy. I love it.
Thank you. That's where you'll see any upcoming talks, any courses that I'm doing. There's an online course in the works, and small group workshops in person to really work through these exercises and have transformations in person. And that's where I'll announce my book. I'm writing a book. It's pretty funny. I went to write this one talk a year and a half ago, and it was like going to be an 8-minute talk. And I kept writing all the way over here. I'd sit to write, oh, whoa, that's a whole other idea. Okay, focus back on the talk. Start again. Whoa, there's this whole area over here. And I realized, oh my God, I realized two things. I was like, this is also going to be a book and also an entire methodology.
Yes. Oh.
And it's being delivered like in person, through writing, absolutely, from the stage, speaking. I love, again, back to my roots, the sensation of communicating with a live audience and feeling lights go on, hearts turn on, the connection that occurs energetically in the room. I just love that to no end as well. So luckily, I get to do that now again.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love the way that happens too. When you give yourself permission, like I've got this thing that I'm focusing on, but I can't stop writing. That might be a sign.
Permission.
Yep.
Permission is key. This work also puts you far more in touch with your instincts, your intuition and your instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the actor's job is to find those and follow them. And that is absolutely what we should be doing in real life, because you have unique messaging in your unique system. And a lot of it gets buried or distracted from, gets dictated by external circumstances that we listen too much to.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to get back in there. You get your own messaging, follow your instincts, and give yourself permission.
Oh, yes. And play with it and have some freaking fun.
Yeah,
it's
fun.
not so serious. You've got one and only precious life. Have fun with it.
You need to de-adult.
Mm-hmm. De-adults. Please make that the title of something, some sort of talk or book or something.
On it. I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to make sure that they have clickable links in all the show notes. It has been amazing to talk to you. We're going to have to do a follow-up.
Angie, I completely agree. I literally could talk to you all day.
That's so great. All right. We'll talk to you soon. So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.